The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
I'm CJ.
And it's hump day, and the beat goes on.
No, the beat doesn't go on too much. For people who missed last night's ordinance committee meeting, there's another fee. Another fee. $20 fine. $20 fine.
Double.
Double.
Double. Yep. 100% increase.
For parking during street sweeping times. Amazing.
Just think, if you stand in that line in City Hall for more than 2 hours to pay your bill, you're going to get a $20 fine on top, and not a 10, a 20. So remember, this is the problem. It's only 31 cents, and it's only 100% more for your parking tickets, and it's only $9 for this, and it's only $9 for that. And you know, I guess if you're one of the elite, it doesn't bother you. But people who are barely making it, this is the whole problem. This is the problem. Here's another example of their total insensitivity. And by the way, they reduced the tax factor on the businesses. You think that's pro-business? Having a $20 parking fine in the city of Fall River? They're not going to take a chance of getting a parking ticket. I mean, in many areas, they eliminate parking fees completely,
like in
business districts.
Like the Flint.
Like the Flint. So, I mean, again, insensitivity to the average person in the city of Fall River. You know, the hell with the poor people. Get out of my sight. I don't want to be reminded of you.
I should probably be quiet about the Flint because I got the mayor of the Flint standing behind me.
The mayor of the Flint is here.
And you know, he might beat me up because they might stop putting parking meters back in the Flint.
But no, another example. You know, it's never ending.
It is. And you know, it's sad that this has gotten to a point where it's no longer just contentious. I mean, people are getting hateful with this. I mean, we're just about bordering on physical attacks over the yes and no side of this.
And at least the threats of them to some people.
Right, and at least the threats of them. And the worst part about it is it's the elite. It's the less than 1% of the population that are making these threats.
And not only them, even though they're not in the 1%, they're pretty high up there. But educators, we've got people telling people to get out of town. Where are you going to go? This is the poorest place in the damn state. Where are you going to move to? Newton, where the rents are triple?
Speaking of Newton, real quickly, the MSBA actually gave more than a thumbs up to Newton, because guess what Newton did? And they said Newton should serve as the poster child for this. I have that story here. Hold on.
Okay. It's worth waiting for.
It's worth waiting for, because I'll tell you now, it makes my day. Did I go into the follow? Nope, that's not in that one. But it's interesting because Newton was listed as the town to build by, because guess how much money Newton took from the MSBA? Zero. Absolute zero. Nothing. They took absolute nothing. And they made it work. Now here's some numbers that we need to know. The most expensive school system to build a new high school is Lowell.
Yep.
590,000 square feet at $340 million at $418 a square foot. And they're the most expensive total cost. 501,000 square feet for the new Durfee, 2,500 students for $263 million at a cost of $526 per square foot. But we're not the most expensive. No, we're not the most expensive because we're not the total cost. But square foot wise, we are.
Yeah, and also ratio. You take the ratio of student population. What was the student population in Lowell?
3,520.
And what's our student population?
2,500.
So there you go. We're paying more for less. Less students.
Right.
And so, I mean, again, isn't it amazing, though? Isn't it amazing that when you read these articles, you see what cities are raping their taxpayers and raping the citizens? It's always the ones at the lower end of the spectrum. Lowell's at the bottom. Lowell, Lawrence, Fall River, New Bedford. We're at the bottom of that group of 10 or so cities that are in approximately the same size. Like I said, what did Newton have to beg for from the state? Big fat zero.
And as a matter of fact, here it is. Probably the greatest compliment we've been paid is the city of Newton, which sought no MSBA funding for a new school project, but followed the agency's strategy. But follow the agency strategy nonetheless. He added, even if we're not giving you money, you follow our process. Newton did it. No money. No money.
Yeah, and you know, to get back to that subject, it's getting ugly, and it's tragic, because the fact is that this is not a political... Look, if you're in politics, as wrong as it is to get personal, to me, I don't care how you beat anybody up on an issue, but the fact is you shouldn't get into families and personal attacks and threats, and you know, it should be about the issue. Get as nasty as you want about eviscerating him in a debate about the issue. But what really, really disturbs me about what's going on here is that the people who they call con, which I think is an absolute misnomer, because most of the people I know that are against this bond are not against building a school. They're just pro-fiscal responsibility. They're just pro-taxpayer and low-income person. So number one, there's not even a disagreement. It's not like the people that they label as a con are against a school. They're against increasing parking fees and sewer fees and taxing to the max, and then tell us we got no money. We have to override 2.5. Oh, by the way, I just gave my campaign manager a job. I just gave my assistant campaign manager a job. I just gave my financial team $73,500 worth of raises. And
I gave away over $140 million in tips.
And then we've got educators and elitists harassing people, badgering people, calling them stupid because they don't want their tax money wasted, you know, being disparaging. I was a victim. I got a call from one of the biggest 1%ers. And I was called a troublemaker, and all I ever do was stare the crap, but it wasn't that word that was used. And, you know, all because I had the audacity to have a different opinion. All because I had the audacity to realize that there are people in this city that are struggling. There are not only people in this city on fixed incomes that are struggling, there are people that are working for a living in this city that are struggling right now with all this. Because guess what? I think the cafeteria workers make like $16,000 a year. A year! They can't get a pay raise. They say the city can't afford it. They give Kathy Ann and Mary Sahadi $73 grand. They got a bunch of paraprofessionals working in the school department. 8 of them that work with special needs children and do a tremendous job. $81,000 is the price tag for a 3-year contract. They tell them, no, go back and cut your demands. Really? 83 grand. You just gave frickin' frack 73.5K. This is what disturbs me. It's like, not only don't we, it's not like we don't exist. It's like these people are subhuman. You know, you can't disparage a transgender. You can't say anything out of the way to a female, and that's justifiable. But you can treat people who work hard like they're subhuman. What did at our meeting last night? What did someone say they were called? Oh, you're one of them.
Them people.
You're one of them.
Them people.
Yeah, yeah. You're one of them. You're one of those people. Those people who are stupid and poor and can't afford it. So move to Russia, move out of town. We don't want to hear you because you're stupid. That's right. In a way, we kind of are, because we elected some of these idiots that are in government right now and are pushing this bond issue. So if I'm angry, tough. Because like I told the one elitist, you can kiss my, and you know what the next word was.
A crooked letter, crooked letter.
That's right.
But you know, the thing that people aren't understanding is, as you said, this isn't about not needing a new school. This is about how it's financed. Yeah. Mary Sahadi said very clearly that it could be done within the tax levy, but it would be tight.
Oh, and then nobody else has got a tight budget.
And then she proceeded to threaten police and fire. Now the new mantra coming out is, well, if you pass this override, we'll get rid of the purple bags forever. Guess what? It's still a tax.
Weren't we supposed to get rid of the purple bags, period, without a bond?
That's right.
Didn't the mayor swear during the campaign he was going to get the purple bags are gone?
Yep, he did.
But look, the bottom line is, as I said, it's about money. When's the last time? We're going to have to look it up, and we'll have it. When's the last time they didn't raise property taxes to the max of 2.5?
Carlton Viveris.
Yeah, Carlton. when was the last time we didn't get increases in sewer fees and water and everything else? Never. You can't remember. Yet we're always out of money. We always can't afford it. Now we need a debt exclusion. Well, you know something? The problem is really simple if you look at it. There's no fiscal responsibility, because the reality is, of course we're running out of money. We have a mayor that has the audacity to go up and try to justify a pay increase by saying you should get paid what you're worth. And it's got to be comparable. No, it doesn't. Apparently, you've never been at a bargaining table, and you don't know really what capitalism is. The price is fixed by the market. Well, Newton didn't pay anything. They didn't need any money, because guess what? How can you justify that our financial team has to get appropriate wages when cafeteria workers are making 16 grand? How can you justify that when the rents in Newton are $1,700 and change as opposed to $700? So if you live in a city where you pay $700 for rent, obviously you don't make the money that you have to make in a city that charges $1,700. Salaries are fixed by the market. Just like years ago when I mentioned it on a show, I was doing research for negotiations, and the point about that, because they always said you can't compare Boston, you can't compare Newton, they got too much money, you got to be within the lower part of this universe. The trash pickers in San Francisco were making more money than anybody in the city of Fall River. The mayor, any department head. Why? Because San Francisco's going to, in California, in its totality, has a tremendously high cost of living. As a matter of fact, there was just something on television about everybody moving out of San Francisco. Even the rich people are moving out now. It's getting so expensive, they're selling their houses and moving away. because it's out of control. Government spending is out of control. Why? Because they all went to the Joseph Goebbels school of lying. You tell a big enough lie often enough, people will believe it. And the big lie for the last 10 or 15 years has been, it's your obligation to get a tax increase every year. Or as one of the persons who reached out to you said, well, how do you want to pay for the escalating cost of government? Easy. Don't pay people in Fall River like they're working in New York City, and only provide essential services, because that's what a city is supposed to do. A city isn't supposed to be mini Washington. Washington's bad enough with the congressmen and the senators and their staffs and all the high-paying federal bureaucratic jobs. There's no reason for a city, especially a poor city like Fall River, to try to emulate that, because the only people who benefit from that are the 1%ers and the political hacks.
Wow. That was a good tirade.
Yeah, but it's true.
I know. But,
It's
you know,
true.
the problem I'm having is because, you know, even the anti-Semitic comments were being made. And yeah. I witnessed one this morning, and I was totally disgusted. And I was going to say to the person, you know, there's no need for making anti-Semitic comments. Can be a civil discussion. But I didn't waste my time. I didn't waste, because when you're dealing with people like that, you're dealing with ignorance at the nth degree.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with a lot of these people who want to vote yes, because it's either my way or the highway. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with civil discussion. There's nothing wrong with civil discord.
You're right. And the irony of this is the people who are doing this are the political correctness brigades for everything else.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, you know, if you dare make a comment that they deem inappropriate to one of these groups that they have now made, and there's millions of them, you know, the Me Too, me, hashtag Me Too, and hashtag Me 3, and you know, binary neutrals and every other thing, fine, okay. But they can be totally insensitive to poor people and disparage them and call, you know, if you call someone who is Jewish, if you even imply something, you'll be castrated for being anti-Semitic.
And that's exactly the comment that was made this morning, and I was totally disgusted by it.
Yeah, and you know, if you make a comment, about certain groups, you're going to get crucified. But the fact is, there's no necessity for those comments. You're right. You should be. But you know, if you're one of the people that's always advocating for this, and you're supposed to be well educated and or affluent or both, shame on you for resorting to this. You know what that indicates to me? You don't have a counter argument.
Exactly.
When you start throwing personal attacks and calling people stupid and you're one of them, you're one of those, well, guess what? If we were in one of those minority groups, which I think by now it's a majority group because there's so many groups now, if you put them collectively, there's more than the people who aren't in one of those groups.
Exactly.
They outnumber people who aren't in those groups. But the reality is, if you say anything about them, like I said, they will burn you at the stake. But it's okay for these people to say, go to Russia. And yeah, I don't know if he apologized. He was supposed to apologize.
It was a quasi apology.
Quasi.
I may have offended some people by a comment I made at the previous interview, and I own it. There's the apology.
Well, that's it. He owned it. That means he meant it.
That's it.
And normally, if they apologize, the apology is disingenuous anyway, because they're only covering their ass. I mean, oh, I'm sorry, their butt. Uh-oh. But, all right, okay. So the fact is, it's disingenuous. It's the way they really think. You know, the old Freudian slip deal, what comes out of your mouth the first time is probably what you actually mean.
Exactly.
And he actually meant that. That's his attitude. That's his attitude. And I don't know, I was supposed to go to my meeting. I'd like to run into him someday because I don't know how I could spend 16 years in the Marine Corps and make a statement like, the price of freedom is taxes, because he, more than the average person, should be very well aware of what the cost of our freedom is. It's go down to Washington, D.C. and look at the monuments, going all the way back for every war we ever fought, and look at the names of the people who gave their lives. Taxes are not the price of doing business. Taxes are the price of ineffective and out of control governments.
I got a trivia question for you, Chip.
Yep.
When did income tax first start in the United States?
Well, I know there was no direct taxation from 1776 to 1916.
Exactly. They started, that's exactly when they started it. 1918 was the first.
But that was the thing. You look at that and you go, no, most people, we said that on the other show, I said that on Monday's show, most people don't even realize that. And as I said, if you look at the dates, that kind of coincides with the beginning of the Industrial Revolution.
Yep, it does.
And when then that was a way the rich guys figured how to get richer. Let the poor people subsidize us. Not only are we going to pay them nothing and chain them to machines, we're going to tax them too. So, and it's just gotten progressively worse.
Exactly.
As I said, if you go back to the 1980s in Fall River, tax increases were rare. But now, the Herbal school of politicians all give you that mantra. It's the cost of doing business. No, it isn't. A city's not a business, number one. A city is supposed to be the provider of, let me see, is that preamble to the Constitution. What does it say? We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, and provide for the common defense. So when I see ensure domestic tranquility, what's more tranquil than having a city that provides only essential services and costs you the least amount of money and provide for its common defense, which is fire, police, education. Those are the basic fundamentals. And the preamble to our Constitution says that. But apparently, nobody remembers that. They remember what? Joseph Goebbels. Keep lying to them. They'll finally believe that it's their job to pay more. Okay. Let's see if the majority of people in Fall River get a pay raise every year. Ha! Not in your life. Not in your wildest imagination will that happen. There are people that haven't had pay raises in 3 or 4 years. How long did Social Security go before they gave them that paltry 2.5%? They hadn't had a raise in what, 3 or 4 years?
I think it was 3 or 4 years, yeah.
And it didn't even cover the increase in the premium on Medicare. This is what real people have to suffer. So all you elitists that call us them people, I want you to go back and try to remember when your mother and father worked in a Shelburne shirt. You think they would have been happy about having all these things, parking fees and everything else? They would have had a difficult time living. That's maybe your problem. You forgot where you came from.
That's right. They forgot they lived in a triple-decker house. They forgot they lived in the Flint. They forgot they lived, in Fall River.
Yeah.
Because now they live in fancy schmancy homes, and they live in places like Swansea and Somerset, and they're still trying to dictate the orders from the Mount. And
it's the, you know, and the thing is, it's like I said, it's nothing new. I mean, it's just pick up the Untold Story of Labor. I'll bring it to Friday. Read about the Mule Spinner from Fall River, Massachusetts, who testified in front of the Senate in the 1830s and talked about how him and his family were living on $125 a year, a family of 4. And the senators were appalled. You're saying, you mean to tell me, how do you live? We go and pick up wood, and we go clamming in the Taunton River, but we can't sell them. We got to eat them. It's the only way we can eat. And then their answer was, oh, is that people actually live on that much? He said, a lot of people live on less. And their answer was, well, why don't you move west? And his answer was perfect. And if you go and Google this, Mule Spinner, Fall River, Massachusetts, you'll get his entire testimony. There's a couple sites that give the actual questions and his answer. And his answer to that was, why don't you move out west and get a homestead? Was, what am I supposed to do? Walk out there? I don't have any money.
The person who gave that testimony was Thomas O'Donnell, a Fall River mule spinner. A mule spinner tells U.S. Senate about the late 19th century unemployment in Fall River, Massachusetts mill workers. Thomas O'Donnell, who had immigrated to the U.S. from England 11 years earlier, appeared before the U.S. Senate.
Yep. And read it. It's telling, because isn't it amazing that here we are, 2018, and that was what, 1830-something?
Yep.
Okay, well, it was in the 1800s. Here we are in 2018, and we have people that are supposedly educated.
1883.
Or 1883, late 1880s, okay. Yeah. So 1883, I got the 30, sometimes I'm a little dyslexic with numbers.
October 18th, 1883.
Yeah, the 3 and the 8, I transposed them. But the fact is that here we are in 2018, and we have the superintendent of schools telling us to go to Russia, and a educator, or a so-called educator, telling us to get out of town if we can't afford it. Well, where are we going to go? This is probably the cheapest place in the state. So you want somebody, and remember, she's not telling derelicts and bums to get out of town, nor is he. He's telling people who worked their whole life and made the fatal mistake of living too long, because their pensions have been eroded by their endless taxes and fees. And there's no sympathy for these people. And for you educators, quote unquote, remember one thing. There are school teachers and people who worked in the school department that are now in their 80s, and their pensions have gone to nothing. So you are victimizing yourself, because this is going to be you if you are unfortunate enough to live a long life, because your pension will be eroded. Because you don't get $20,000 pay raises when you're a retiree. Most you can get is $360 if you get it. So figure it out. That's less than $1 a day.
And the cost of living is much higher than that half the time.
And it's gone with your prescription drugs and your health care costs. You're already in the hole. Exactly. You don't even cover half of those increases. So just remember, someday you will be there.
And, you know, I've got to make this, we're down to our final few seconds. So a no vote doesn't mean they won't build the school. It just means they're going to have to find a different way to fund it. And the way they want to fund it is by doing an override. This way, they can give away these pay raises. This way, they can hire all these people that we don't need. They don't want to cut their own pocketbooks. They don't want to cut any money out of their own budgets. They want to keep being able to do that. And so they threaten you every time you turn around. So just remember, a no vote doesn't mean that they're not going to build a school. A no vote just means you're not going to pay higher taxes. And that's what this is. A no vote isn't for a new school. A no vote is for higher taxes.
Yeah, you may not be welcome in their elitist 1% group, but you can come and be one of us. Yeah, and then they can call you, you're one of them.
One of them. Hey, we'll see you on Friday. Stay angry and have a great day. Bye.